So viewers, you know,
Yeah, man.
viewers, I am outside, and I am here with the Honorable Dr. Todd, attorney at law. I promised you this morning that I will come live. I'll come live dazzling with the lawyer to hear what was said to him. Because you know, when they put these things outside there, and you come to find out the truth, you know, before you talk. So let me see if I get the honorable attorney to give you a rundown of what transpired here at the prison. So Dr. Todd, you're live. Can you say yes?
All right, so I was able to speak with a number of these young men. Majority of them, their actions on the particular date in question could not in law constitute acts of terrorism. Some of these men were actually on their bikes. They were keeping away from many of the burning of the roads and all some of the chaos. And they were waiting to make their way home. Some of them came off of work. And then you had the police collecting them in a, you know, you have these type of mass collections where you just pick people up randomly. Having listened to the stories and having recognized what is going on, I don't think that the police force is serious about the charge. I think what has happened is clearly you had, maybe we could say, mayhem, chaos for a couple of days. You recognize that the protest was escalating. Who were the persons escalating that? The police needed a quick remedy to get people off the road. And so this is a way of saying, listen, and it has to be calculated if you look at it. Because not one of the magistrates' court granted bail. So at the stage of which the charges are presented, there is little room, if at all, for any explanation on what is the type of kinds of evidence that is likely to come before the court in relation to the matter. So you had a situation where this was a direct attempt to drive fear into persons, not to come out, not to protest. All right? Because when you listen to the stories of these young men, it is absolutely unfair that persons are in the prison on remand for allegations in which there is no evidence to connect them. One young man said he was standing on the road. He's from the Bello Dam. He was standing on the road with another friend. The police arrested him and said that he has intention, they have intention to rob the Chinese. He said, but how would we have intentions to rob the Chinese? That is how he was brought to the station. He is awaiting, now his family went to this Chinese supermarket to get camera footage and so on to see whether they were there. They were in custody. By the time, the following day, by the time they're waiting to ask the police what happened, police takes them to court. They are now told acts of terrorism. And these are not persons who said that they were a part of the protest or not. But we got to be careful, because one has a fundamental right covered by the Constitution to freely express yourself. So protest is not illegal. So I believe it's a calculated attempt to get persons not to come out and demonstrate that they want a particular course in relation to justice for this young girl. This is calculated, because when you listen to the young men, if you listen to what was discussed with them from the police level, it was not discussed in terms of, okay, I have video footage of you taking objects, burning road, I have video footage of you costing. This was not discussed. The young men are clear as to what the police were telling them in custody. What the charge is, the fact of the imprisonment time and the amount of money. Now these men know for a fact that they can't even find bail. You understand me? So it is driving. There wasn't one clear eye in that prison there today. There wasn't one clear eye.
Wow.
Every one of them broke down in tears.
Wow.
Because actually, some of them even know the people who were throwing things on the road. And it's unfair to them that those people who were putting objects and causing, they are free. They were never collected by the police. Now this young man, Bash, said
Sherwin.
Corwin says clearly, man, listen, if you run back the tape, you will see at the hospital, I was the one standing between them, trying to quiet the people, trying to talk to the police, all right, this, that. This is the peacemaker is in custody. This is the peacemaker. This man is riding, going home. Police rabbled him. Threw him in a van where they had other men. Some of them they picked up from the corner of the street. Man, when you listen to
Wow.
what these young men,
Wow.
not are saying, can prove.
Wow.
Because we have a number of names of witnesses. They have pointed me clearly where there is video footage. These guys are going to fight for their freedom. Where there are video footages to say where they were, what they did. Standing, one of them said he came out of Albright down from work. He works construction. He and his workmate, they have on their work bag. They were told that there was fire in a particular part where they were riding. So they stopped and said, okay, they were talking so that they can allow the fire to of course, to ease down or what the case may be before they make their way home. They too were arrested.
Wow.
So the police, to my mind, went on a rampage, gather up a set of innocent black youths, threw them, put them before the court, and they are going to have a high held task to bring any type of evidence to say that these guys have committed act of terrorism. Now, I have always said, this whole act of terrorism is misused. People don't get up one day and decide, listen to me, I'm going to go in a protest and I'm charged with acts of terrorism. Right now, and I can tell you, there was an amendment, there were amendments to this whole particular section. I mean, I don't want to discuss the law here, in which persons protesting and so on are not to be considered as acts of terrorism. Burning of roads, not to be considered acts of terrorism. But I believe it was not signed in. You know, some of these legislations which are passed requires that there be some form of official letter which brings it into force. I believe that was not done. But when you look at it, there are other charges that you can bring against riotous behavior, damage to property if you have the evidence. But to go to the extreme to acts of terrorism, let me tell you something. We are a laughing stock. I have colleagues who I have studied with. And mind you, I have a PhD in law in majoring in counter-terrorism and terrorism.
Wow.
So it is not, I know, and when it is a laughing stock, when you look and you study the terrorism in its context, Guyana is really not a serious place. When you look, and I have a list of case laws that we had reviewed in acts of terrorism, we are not beginning. I don't know how and why we are embarrassing ourselves with these type of charges. Look at the charges where they charge, I think, about 11 persons in the Quinton Bacchus matter. Have they not learned their lesson where that case is going? They had sticks. People picking up sticks. Witnesses coming before and giving evidence before the court. But they don't have a clue. Who? They couldn't. They talk about over 500, 600, 1,000 persons. They can't recognize anyone. You understand me? It's the same thing here. We're going down a line of having people charged, but I think there is a particular reason they're being charged. They're being charged so at least you can get in the mind of the black youths. Don't come out, because this is likely to be a charge and you're likely to be remanded. Because even when you look at it, the people who are charged with acts of terrorism are on bail, but all the courts, not one of them granted bail. Not one of them granted bail to these type of offense. It is as though a message, a particular message is being sent. It is only unfortunate that none of these young men had representation.
Wow.
At the start of this case. Because I believe, and let me tell you something, acts of terrorism, the charge of itself, it requires proper and thorough investigations. You understand? There is no police who could have investigated any one of these charges properly. So it must mean that these persons are charged and the investigation is going on.
Wow. And they're remanded in prison.
They're remanded in prison. It's not a case where the persons, they have completed investigation and that there's overwhelming evidence in relation to acts of terrorism.
But you know, Dr. Todd, how this is damaging for our young people, because a lot of young people, a mother just reached out to me from Barbies. Her son was hit off his bike by the police. And when the police hit him, the police were firing, he run, pick up 3 shots, was in the hospital. They released him, said he's on $50,000 bail, I got a receipt. And then they said, no, he can't get bail no more. Pass him through the court for terrorism.
Yes, listen to me, it is the charge that the police is using now to kind of drive the fear in persons so as to not exercise their freedom of speech, not exercise freedom of expression and all of that, and freedom of assembly and so on. Listen, there is no doubt, we're all Guyanese. I think we saw what happened and we saw the magnitude of where it got. I'm still saying that the police have the right under the laws of this country to investigate. But you see, what they did to these young men, I believe is unfair. And as you go individual by individual and you sit and you listen to their story, you realize that here, while we are trying and we're calling for justice, injustices seem to be continuing and seem to be expanding in this country.
Wow. Wow. Dr. Todd, I want to thank you on behalf of all of us, you know, Guyanese people in the ALP, because when this thing happened, of course, I didn't believe the police. I reached out to you. You were miles and thousands of miles away and promised that you'll get in here this morning and be at the prison. I want to thank you because, you know, I was out here at the prison. I said, I'm not going anywhere because I find it strange, like you, that everybody charged with terrorism, not required to plea, but remanded to prison. And I mean, I'm a non-lawyer, and I really want to thank you. I know the sun is hot, but I go want half an hour with you to educate me on what is terrorism out of this sun. So,
we can definitely talk, but
yes,
it is way beyond. That's why I believe there was attempts made by our local party to try to bring definition, even if you want to talk about domestic terrorism, to bring a definition to what this really is. Because even the burning of roads and persons demonstrating and calling for justice cannot be considered act of terrorism.
But Robin Simon said she was out there.
Even breaking into somebody's store. I mean, I'm never
condoning.
going to condone these things. These things are wrong. But even breaking into somebody's store is not acts of terrorism.
But Dr. Todd, Robin Simon said to me, her picture, everything out there, wanted for the act of terrorism, but the police put to her what this act of terrorism was. It's because she said no justice, no peace.
Yes, yes. But what that now is subject to interpretation. All right? It does not mean that she was inciting and she was directly telling persons to do particular acts that the law would see as unlawful. All right? So really and truly, it is too vague. And that slogan has been called...
Look, the whole country got to get locked up. Everybody got to get locked up.
Floyd in the U.S. where persons were demonstrating and marching after the police came. They want to check back to see how many persons have used that slogan. Did they see a developed country like the United States charge people for acts of terrorism or attempt to charge people for acts of terrorism for using that slogan? Listen, there is, someone has to, at some stage in our country, has to be able to stand up and tell the police force, you are embarrassing our country on a global scale. It is now become a joke. You charge, when you listen to what persons did, what they're claiming persons did. Now, one of the guys who is sick now, he's sick. I had just had them talk, get the medic and so on, who's sick, who got sick in the police lockup. All right? Now, he said he was riding, and he said if you listen to the facts stated that he was riding with another person, and they were attempting, and their riding affected the flights from landing in Guyana. That is the level of nonsense they told
What?
these guys. So really and truly, the facts that the police saying that he is acts of terrorism is that he was making our country unsafe, that the flights couldn't land.
What?
Yes.
Dr. Todd, Dr. Todd?
Sure.
Dr. Todd, that was said to you in the prison there?
That is the story. When you listen to them individually, all have particular things that were told to them. And if we do not attempt now to challenge this, we're going to have innocent people sitting down in the prison for days, which should not.
Yeah.
And it's a grave injustice.
The young man in Barbados to tell him till 20-something before they appear again?
Most of them, their dates are the 24th and the 28th of May.
Seamus
So
Dunn spent like 3 weeks in prison.
Yes. But when they come, you're likely to be sent back again on further remand, because it's clearly the police are not going to come with a file to see. And then when you look at the magnitude of how the courts operate, you don't have courts who can say you've institute a charge now and I'm ready to do a trial next week. So it's all on a timeline, and the courts have the availability to do the trial. So listen.
So what's the best, Doc, you think, Dr. Todd, for them to come out? What the course of action by law?
I've collected a number of contact with their family. I'm going to talk with their families to see whether we can get someone to sign, and then we are going to challenge the instituting of the charge.
Okay.
Now, there is a very thin line, and I usually say this a lot, a very thin line between criminal law and civil law. And sometimes when you go to the high court before a civil judge, case laws have always been there to say, listen, don't really get the civil judge involved in how a matter ought to be determined by another court who is competent to do it. And so sometimes you have to have very special reasons before a court of a higher status intervene. All right? But based on what we're hearing, I believe clearly we have to challenge it.
Yes.
I will be writing the crime chief, because as the crime chief, I've not heard anything from the crime chief about the crime chief, and nothing said really from the crime chief. But I'm going to be writing the crime chief because I believe he has to review all these charges as the crime chief of this country. He has to review these charges because I believe clearly they have mixed up a lot of innocent young black boys or young men with who they really want to institute charges against. And as I said, even if you find those persons who are taking objects and laying it across a road and burning a road, that's not acts of terrorism. If it's a damage to road, let them be charged with damage to property. If they were behaving in a particular way that can be considered riotous behavior is also.
If you find them stealing, charge them for stealing.
All right? And those offenses, you see, they went to the extreme because those offenses are bailable. Mm-hmm. So you went to the extreme in which you laid an indictable charge and prevent them from acting. So that you can send a message to the others.
Yeah, it's fair.
Don't come out and demand justice. Don't raise your voice.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
quiet and stay home. You come out, we are going to get you.
I hear you. Thank you so much, Dr. Todd. Thank you. Thank you. And you know we can head down, Dr. Todd. We are coming behind. Just let me wrap up. Dr. Todd, we got half hour more work. I know you're not charging me some legal fees, but I need some legal advice. Yes. So viewers, you know, I did promise you. Listen, people. I have said it before and allow me to say it again. Listen, please pull this hook my seatbelt for me. Listen. I ain't had to be a lawyer to know and to read between the lines. Common sense alone. Everybody, Van Lode, charged for act of terrorism, remanded to prison. Listen, I got some pictures of a young man. Gunshots, not pellet, gunshots. Gunshots. Was in the hospital. I got the pictures. Now he's in prison with those same gunshots. They already placed him on $50,000 bail. And so that is the point. Everybody, you know, I don't have to keep repeating this. I'm not condoning crime, stealing, or anything. But I refuse to sit silent as a Guyanese, as a mother, and as a leader. To accept the lies and the nonsense that is police coming out here. 19 years, 20 years, 18 years. Young men. And you heard Dr. Todd say they broke down in tears. People, I've asked families. Families are coming forward. We at the ALP, everything, all the faces and everything that was coming out there, we established our own information. We got a database, the name, what they were charged for, and every single thing. Because while all of this is standing for justice, even for the 11-year-old. You see what I'm saying? So, allow me, viewers, and like I said, I'm going to bring these things live. I myself, we have to write. We're going to keep writing and bringing the evidence. That is why I asked Dr. Todd to get into the prison. I shared all the names that I have with him. How much? 27, 28, 30 something names. And send it to him so that, you know, we could look at it. I'm asking other lawyers and so on if you could come together and get a team so that we could push this back and fight and get these young men. And once their stories, you're innocent until proven. Right? We have to get them out of prison. Dr. Todd said you have to call for the medic in there. And a lot of people, I am telling you, as a leader, my role, my duty, my function is to fight for people. Nobody scare me off and say, oh, this one Broomes, she want to encourage us. Listen, no, you can't frighten my spirit. Oh, if it was your son, that's what we're saying this morning. Nobody wants to stand up. We talking about we're afraid to stand up. So you know me, I don't run the lives very long. I'm out all morning, people. All morning. I'm going to take a few to sit down, you know, to know more about the law and the act and all of that. But I really, again and again, I'm happy. You know, immediately, the first set of young men, when they were charged, I tried to contact Dr. Todd, attorney at law, his firm. And, you know, we just don't talk, but we act. Right? We don't talk, but we act. If you commit a crime, bring the right charge. You got to take responsibility for your actions. Right? You have to. So I pray for the families. I pray that God strengthen these young men. I mean, it is so sad, you know, when your rights are taken, you know. And that's what they're doing. They're destroying our men. You know, because the men become broken. They're in prison, they're broken. Because their rights are being violated by a state, they can't fight again. Oh my God. And I was wondering, I said, oh my God, I wonder if they had any lawyers, any one of them had legal representation. And Dr. Todd said, so far, those that he spoke with today, none of them people, none of them had any legal representation. You see what's going on? There's justice we talk with poor people, children there. Come now, man. It is sad. It is sad. It is sad. It is sad. I quote Dr. Todd. While we're standing up and fighting for justice, more injustices are taking place, left, right, and center, in this country. So, viewers, you know, let me thank you. Let me thank you. Pass the word, share the word, you know, share the life. People must know. People must know. People must know. Right? I myself, I already called the prison. I find out how you able to visit somebody. They say you got to call the prison and inform them, and the person got to accept the visits and so forth and so forth. So while we're moving, I'm moving. Like I said, we got to do something simultaneously because we are punishing all over. And while we're fighting to know how, not only the cause of death, how, where, how did she end up there and all of that, we have our young men out here suffering. And so that, we can't afford to take our eyes off of things. This is a time that all of us, you know what I mean, we got to be going the extra. We got to be going the extra, right? You come out here and you talk about leaders and so on. It's not to shine up yourself and to write and tell people how, when you give them power. As the leader of the LP, we must demonstrate leadership right now. Since you say you're going out there, demonstrate leadership. Why vote for you? What makes you? You know? And so this is our duty. It's our duty. It's my responsibility to stand up for the voiceless, to stand up for the poor, to stand up for those vulnerable. People don't get to go behind those doors today. Of course, I could not have gone beyond, but I go in because I can go legally to visit somebody. I'm happy, however, that while we were in office, and I had the privilege of going behind places, the jails are places that I took time out to go, hear and to listen. Because in jail, who listen to you, who come to see you, the men in jail used to say, it's the first time ever a man who's there for over 50 years, anybody of your status, come not only but to listen to us and to talk to us, right? So thanks to all of you again, and you will hear from us, all right, on this matter. Thank you, thank you.